During the day's direct celebration of socialist childbirth and Fuller's more indirect version, remind us that in the midst of every revolution, babies are born. We may be called to mount the barricades against monstrous evils, to struggle valiantly against racism and sexism and global warming and empire. But in those same moments, we are also called to hold our infants close to our skin, to feel the warmth of the sun, to eat figs and olives and almonds. Those are the things that give us power that will outlive empires. And yet those are the things that are too easily forgotten, perhaps especially among radicals influenced by another correspondent for the New York Tribune, the man who set the tone for both European and American radicalism in the years after 1848. My good friend Karl Marx. While Fuller's ship was foundering off the coast of Long Island, other refugees from revolution were making it safe to U.S. shores and settling in New York, St. Louis, Milwaukee. Though some of these driven 48ers were Unitarians who planted congregations that still exist today out in Wisconsin. Many more were deeply devoted to Marx, and they became the planters of American socialism. Curiously enough, these German radicals were even somewhat responsible for the 20th century tradition of immigrant Jewish socialism, as the Russian Jews who settled in New York City at the beginning of the 20th century were neighborhoods adjoining German radical neighborhoods and shared radical thoughts. If Fuller's radicalism was Goethean, Marx's, of course, was Hegelian, concerned more with the grand sweep of cosmic history than with organic processes of growth at the small scale. And so I can only wonder, had Marx's socialism been leavened by Fuller's Goetheanism, might they together foster radicalism less willing to sacrifice the individual, less willing to tolerate the violent excesses of a Stalin or a Mao? Would it have been a radicalism more attentive to the arts, to education, to childbearing? Those are speculative questions. During the final years of her life, Margaret Fuller was most certainly not envisioning that she would be the leader of a resurgent American radicalism. "I'm very tired of the battle of giant wrongs," she wrote in 1848, perhaps suffering from postpartum depression, "and would like to have someone younger and stronger to arise to say out what must be said, still more to do what ought to be done." The months after Angelo's birth were not easy ones for her, as she shuttled back and forth between Rome and the village where her child was staying. This was not only because she was balancing her love of mothering and her love for the revolution. It was also because her family's income depended on her capacity to produce dispatches for publication. Creating a motherly revolution was not a simple matter. Perhaps Fuller would have rediscovered her strength as her son grew up. Perhaps the headaches and physical frailty that had plagued her throughout her life would have prevented her from taking a leadership role. But if Margaret Fuller was not destined to be the revolutionary beacon of the 19th century, perhaps she still has the potential to be the woman of the 21st. The end of the 20th century saw the collapse of most attempts to put Marx's vision into practice. Yet the critique of capitalism shared by Fuller and by Marx remains persuasive to many of us. Persuasive to me, anyway, I hope. And so maybe the excitement of this bicentennial year is a call for us to launch our own Fullerite revolution. A revolution that honors organic growth, the education of each person, and openness to the Spirit. We can hear a bit of that call in Fuller's final publication, Christmas Meditation on the End of One Revolution and the Beginning of the Next. The next revolution, she wrote, here and elsewhere, will be radical. The new era is no longer an embryo, it is born. It begins to walk. This very year sees its first giant steps. Bodies rotten and trembling cannot long contend with swelling life. Tongue and hand cannot be permanently employed to keep down hearts. Sons cannot be long employed in the conscious enslavement of their sires, fathers of their children. That Advent call to Emmanuel begins to be understood. Joy to those born in this day. Fuller wrote these words, recall, after her champion Mazzini had been forced back into exile, after she had decided that she would need to leave her beloved Rome and return home to a country still deeply compromised by slavery. So if anyone in this room, this day, is feeling that our champion has been vanquished, that the great revolutionary hopes that we felt just 2 years ago have been destroyed, then we can assume that Fuller's words are meant for us. Joy to those born in this day. Thank you.
Bravo.